And suddenly, it's July. Hey guys, it's Amelia, but not the pilot, just Amelia. I am going to do the mid-year freakout tag, which is a classic booktube tag. I do it every year. If you haven't heard of it, I'm going to put all of the questions down below if you two would like to do it, but it's basically just a mid-year check-in point about how your reading is going for the year. I try to read 100 books every year. Right now, my current goal is actually only 50 books. Trying to be a little less wild this year because I am trying to complete a master's degree. So I have a little bit less time than usual. So let's get into it. Number 1, best book I've read so far in 2021. I would have to say that is probably between 2. I read both of R.F. Kuang's books this year, Babel and Yellowface, and they are both spectacular. I just don't even know how to get into it. Yellowface is a contemporary fiction. She doesn't usually write these. It was so good. It's delicious. It follows a white woman who is an author who's best friends with an Asian American woman who's also an author, and they went through college together, and now they are in the publishing industry, and the white woman's books are they're not doing that great, where the Asian American author's books are doing really, really well. And one night they're hanging out and they're sort of frenemies, and they end up doing a pancake eating contest, and then the Asian American girl ends up choking on a pancake and dying. And then the white woman steals her manuscript and publishes it as her own. So it's so crazy. It deals with a lot of racial things, but also publishing industry things. So it's very interesting. It's so exciting, so delicious. Ooh. Babel, also really good. If you haven't heard of it, where have you been? It's a massive book, but it's worth it. Also has footnotes, which I thought was really fun, and R.F. Kuang has done so much research, so a lot of it is extremely accurate, even though it's a fantasy book. And it has a lot of commentary on racism, again, but this time in the university realm, the academic realm, but also in UK versus international realm type of colonialism, things like that. She's very good at including microaggressions and things like that in her books, and delving into different sides of different races, if that makes any sense. I just really like her books. Babel, though, is about a group of students that go to Oxford. It's set in Oxford, and all of these students speak different minority languages, and as a result they are able to do this magic where you translate words from one language into another that are similar but mean slightly different things. Then you can make a magic thingy happen. Also a lot of very interesting things about translation. I just really like etymology, so I really liked that. I also really loved Anatomy and Immortality by Dana Schwartz, I think is her name. I read both of them this year. They're very cute little romances. They were just really delicious and short. And they're set in Edinburgh and then London. And the main characters are a very rich, well-off girl who lives in a little castle outside of Edinburgh, who wants to be a surgeon, but she can't because it's 1800s and she's a woman, and also she's not royalty, but well off. And this boy who is a grave robber who snatches bodies out of the grave to provide them to the anatomy lessons, because back in the day, to learn surgery, they would dig up graves and then cut up the bodies to learn about anatomy. Very interesting, fun little romance, but also gross. I don't know, if you get grossed out, don't read it, but I liked it. So yeah, it's a duology, and they're both out now, and they're very fun. I liked them a lot. They're very, very cute. Number 2, best sequel that you've read so far in 2021. 23. It's 2023. Jesus Christ. I read Hellbent this year, which is the sequel to the Alex Stern series by Leigh Bardugo. Yet again, another dark academia win. Guys, it's so good. If you haven't read that series, you need to. They are quite long. Leigh Bardugo, I don't know what she's doing, but she's writing really long books recently. I don't really know if I'm vibing with it. They are good, but I just wish they were a little shorter. I don't have anything against long books. I just often feel that books that are that long don't need to be. They could have been cut a bit more. The other sequel I read was Immortality, which I just talked about. So, new release you haven't read yet but want to. I really want to read Lives of Puppets. I think it just came out maybe last week or 2 weeks ago. I also really want to read A Day of Fallen Night, which is what my camera is currently propped up sitting on, and I've read 1 chapter. I don't really know if I'm gonna finish it. I can't get into it, but we'll see, we'll see. I know it's really good, so. Number 4, most anticipated release for the second half of the year. I honestly don't have any. I'm feeling like this year is a bit of a flop. I feel like last year there was so many books that I was really, really excited to read, constantly like waiting for the releases and talking about books with people. And I feel like this year has really been lacking. There's some really good ones, as I previously mentioned, but I don't know. I don't have any that are coming out that I'm excited for in the second half of the year. But I have a lot that I have to read, so that's no big problem. Number 5, biggest disappointment. Boy, do I have a lot this year. The Witcher series. I know you're probably gonna hate me for this, but I just started reading it. I've tried to get into this series so many times. People keep telling me, Amelia, you're gonna love this. Like, you love high fantasy, you're gonna vibe with this, you loved Game of Thrones. I can't get into the TV show. I've tried getting into the TV show like 4 times. I read the first book, The Last Wish, which is the first 0.5 book, because nothing makes sense, which is what the first half of season 1 is based on. I realize it's a bunch of short stories, they're all out of order. Fine, okay, that doesn't make a lot of sense. It's honestly sort of lazy in my opinion, but whatever. I just don't really like them. I feel like the female characters are really flat. They're very mother maiden whore. I don't like Yennefer. I don't like Gerald, whatever the hell his name is. The literal only reason I could see for watching this show is because Henry Cavill is hot. And the production value is really high, but the plot is boring as hell, and I don't care about literally any of the characters. So yeah, I really thought I was gonna read the whole series this year. I'm struggling to make it through the second 0.5 book. I'm really disappointed in them. I'm very upset. I also was quite disappointed in Sun in the Star, which is the Nico D'Angelo new Percy Jackson book. It was co-written by another author, and something about it just seemed a little off, and I think it's because it was co-written. It wasn't written by Rick. But I do really appreciate that Rick found a queer author to write this book, because Rick is not queer, so he's finding that representation and he's given them a voice, and I love that. But I just felt like, yeah, the voices were a little off, and I also thought the plot was a little weird. It seemed too big to fit in one book, and I just sort of wish they gave it a series or something, because we sort of got to the end of the book and then they just wrapped it up. And they were like, never mind, there really was no danger all along. And it was just really disappointing for me. Another disappointment, I started TJ Klune's series, The Lightning Struck Heart. I really thought I was gonna like this because the plot is like high fantasy with like princes and like dragons and stuff. But I just found it really childish. And I felt that all of the characters all sounded the same. But I don't know. I feel like I could definitely tell it's one of his earlier works, but I had fun with it, but it wasn't like a good book. I think I'll probably read the second one though, so. And another disappointment, Spare, but like, it's just a bad book, but it's fun. Number 6, my biggest surprise. I really liked the Mirror Visitors series by Christelle Debeau. I don't know how to say her name, she's French. This is a translated fantasy series. It was originally in French and it was translated into English. There is 4 books in the series, although I think there's a 0.5 book at one point. I didn't get to read that because it's not translated into English anywhere. If you have it translated, please send it to me, please. I really like the series. I didn't really expect it. I didn't know what I was getting into. It was crazy at all points. I never knew what was gonna happen. I didn't really love it at first, and then it really, really grew on me, and I thought it was really interesting. So it was a very big surprise. Another really big surprise for me was Jennette McCurdy's memoir called I'm Glad My Mom Died. I liked it way more than I thought I was going to. I enjoy memoirs, but I'm never like in love with them or like crying or laughing, whatever. I went through a full range of emotions listening to this book. It was very interesting and very cool to see that side of her as a person, I guess. Because I don't know why, but in my head, I always thought that like Disney Channel and Nickelodeon actors literally just play themselves because they're children and they don't know how to act. But apparently she can act because she is not Sam. She's very, very much not Sam. Number 7, my favorite new author. I really liked the Dana Schwartz books that I was mentioning before, Anatomy. I also read Tress of the Emerald Sea, which is by Brandon Sanderson, the fantasy man. I've never read any of his books before, and I really liked this one, so I think I'll probably finally try more of his books if I have time. I just know they're really big. I also read Anne of Green Gables for the first time this year, and I really like her books as well. L.M. Montgomery, very cute. She has a very weird writing style, and I don't really know, it's a little bit boring, but I do really like Anne of Green Gables. Number 8, my newest fictional crush is Gilbert Blythe. No one's surprised. I'm in love with that man. He's like Laurie from Little Women if Laurie was kind. I love Gilbert Blythe so much, and he deserves the world, and I will continue to rewatch Anne with an E on Netflix for the rest of the year. It deserved better. It deserved more seasons, and it's fine. I'm just gonna keep listening to the audiobooks. My newest favorite character, I guess, is Anne. I don't really know. I do really like Anne. It's very interesting because she is very much like me. I've always been told to read these books because everyone's like, oh my god, you're just like Anne. And I don't know why I never read them until now, but they give me spring vibes, so I started reading them in the spring, and I've just been binge reading them now. I really like her, but at the same time, she annoys me because she is sort of annoying, and it also bothers me because I'm like, God, was I that annoying as a child? And I hope I'm still not that annoying. Number 10, a book that made me cry. I read Genderqueer, which is a short, like, webtoon. It's not a webtoon. It's like a comic book, memoir comic book, by a queer author that uses they pronouns, I think. I should look it up. I'm sorry. They just sort of talk about their whole experience coming out, learning how to be a person in the world with this gender binary that we have in society. This is one of the most banned books in America right now, and I honestly think that's crazy because it's such a good resource. There's so many literature and movie recommendations in it that's like, these are the ones that I read when I was a child that helped me discover things. I just think it was really interesting to hear from someone from this perspective. There's not that many books out there that I feel like have non-binary main characters like discovering themselves, and it was very interesting. I also read Femina this year, which is a nonfiction book that I was reading for some of my art history master's degree, but it made me cry in the, I think, first chapter because it talks about like women throughout history that were forgotten, and the very first chapter starts with a story about a suffragette and how she died to raise awareness about suffragettes, and I had never heard about it, but it's just crazy to me how we're still fighting for the same things that we have been since then. And there was actually a group of feminists who were medievalists. I'm also a medievalist. That's like what I'm studying in my master's. And they were feminists in the theory that medieval people had more rights than we do now. And that's crazy and made me really sad. So I cried. I'm even tearing up about it right now. Anyway, number 11, a book that made me happy. Genderqueer made me happy, and so did Femina as well. So they made me sad, but they also made me really happy. Also, Anatomy made me really happy. It's just such a cute little romance. Number 12, the most beautiful book that I have bought so far this year or received. I haven't really been buying books since I am a broke uni student, but I think Babel is one of the prettiest covers I've seen. Also, it has footnotes, which I think is really pretty. Femina is also pretty though, but that's probably just my medieval opinion because it has the Hildegard egg on the front. Number 13, what books do I need to read by the end of the year? Well, guys, I have a very long list still, but I'm only gonna name 4. I'm currently reading Crimson Rivers. I don't know if you've heard about this, but this is another Harry Potter Marauders fanfic that's very long. There's a bit of a scandal about it on TikTok a couple months ago because the author ended up taking it down off of AO3 because they were being bullied so much. And that's on a toxic community. However, I happen to be really smart and I downloaded it already and had it on my iPad. So I'm still reading it. It's really freaking long. It's a Harry Potter Marauders era Hunger Games mashup AU. The writing is okay, but I really like the way the Hunger Games and Marauders stuff fits together. It's delicious. It makes perfect sense. And the arena things are really interesting. So I'm slowly making my way through that. I will be making a vlog about it, don't worry. I also really want to read Life and Death, which is a Twilight book that I did not realize existed, and I'm a massive Twilight fan, so I have to read that. I also want to finish my Ali Smith quartet. That was my goal for the year. It's a bit of a smaller goal than I had last year, but I'm slowly making my way through it. I don't really like them, not gonna lie. And I also would like to read A Day of Fallen Night, which is where you're sitting on top of right now. I don't know if I'm gonna make it through. It's so chunky, and I sort of want to drop it, but we'll see. Let me know down below what you guys are planning on reading. I'm always looking for more recommendations or book clubs. Thank you for watching, guys. Bye!